Heyo! Welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and today I have for you guys Flower Cardians. So basically, my friend asked me, after coming back to Yu-Gi-Oh! After kind of leaving for many years, what kind of competitive deck should I be building right now? And I go, well, within a budget, Flower Cardians are a really fun deck. They're very competitive, and they're great for like the more local, but still semi-competitive play. And honestly, he blows me out of the park a lot with this deck, and it's actually insanely fun. I have a very hard time getting around his Flower Cardian Lightflare there, and honestly, it's just a very solid, very consistent deck with a lot of really great themes that come through during its play. So basically, he went ahead and built this, and now he's loving it. We all have a great time fighting against it. It's a really great deck, and it is in the budget territory, so I definitely recommend this for a lot of people who do want to play. It's going to be hurt by link summoning, I think, a little bit, but that only depends on like what kind of link monsters are coming out. Obviously, because this deck has room in the extra deck for link monsters. And right after that, like, because everything here is dark and warrior, if link monsters that have conditions like warrior and dark and monster and stuff like that to be brought out, this deck could probably be very viable in the next format as well. So basically, I just want to make a disclaimer. I don't know all these specific cards yet. It's his deck, and I really wanted to showcase it because this is a build that I find didn't cost him very much. I did supplement, he only had an extra deck of about 10 cards. I did supplement a few cards in there just because he's still building the extra deck. And then the side deck we're both working on. So obviously the Ash Blossom is more of an expensive card right now, and obviously the Solemn Strikes are, but that's just to make this deck the most competitive it could be. The main deck you see is the main deck that he has, and the side deck is just wishful thinking. The Mask of Restricts are very good for this format right now, so I'll get into that later. But moving into the main deck, we have 3 Flower Cardians Halloween, which acts as just a very easy special summon. And if this card is target of attack, you can negate the attack and the battle phase, and then draw a card. So that's really awesome. So a great stall card there. And we also have 3 Flower Cardian Willows, which then again can be special summoned if you have a certain level or lower Flower Cardian. And then once per turn, you can target one Flower Cardian monster in your graveyard, shuffle that into the deck, and then draw another card. So the draw power, you can already see, is quite substantial here. Also, we got 3 Flower Cardian Willows with Calligrapher. So this needs to be tribute summoned by tribute summoning a level 11 Flower Cardian monster, which ideally you would pick this one. And then if you bring it out, because it has 2000 attack, it's like the counterpart to the 100 attack version of itself, and it's also the same level. It's just the attack difference, and then also has a little bit of a different ability. So if this card is special summoned, you draw a card, awesome. And if you do, show it to your and then you can special summon it if it's a Flower Cardian monster, otherwise sent to the graveyard. So again, with the flower stacking and some other abilities that your deck has from moving cards to the top of the deck in any order you want, this is really synergized with that. But another big thing, it's a tuner monster. So, if it's used for synchro material, you can treat it in all other synchro materials that has a level as level 2 monsters. So that's how this works. Like, so you can make boards of 6, boards of 8, and boards of 10 very easily because you can spam the field, and then those all become level 2, so you can make those even number synchro monsters. Now we got 2 Flower Cardian Maple with Deer. So this card, if this card is special summoned, you draw a card. If you do, show it to your opponent. Then if it's a Flower Card monster, you can destroy a spell and trap card your opponent controls. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. So then again, with the flower stacking, you can start blowing up some cards on the field just because you know what the top of your deck is. But he only runs 2 of these. It also has the 1000 attack, a little bit different there. Next up, he runs 3 Flower Cardian Zebra Grass. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can reveal any number of Flower Cardian monsters in your hand, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw the same number of cards. This is basically just a magical mallet built in. Pretty good. All with the theme of the deck that it brings out. And then we run 2 Flower Cardian Clover with Boar. So if this card is special summoned, you can... So if this card is special summoned, you can draw a card. And if you do, show it to your opponent. Then, if it's a Flower Card monster, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. Now, as you can probably see, there's a lot of monster cards in this deck, so even if you didn't use flower stacking, the likelihood of you doing this is very high, and getting that off to the ideal state. Next up, he's got 3 Flower Cardian Peony with Butterfly. I don't know how you pronounce that, my apologies. But this card, you draw a card. If you do, show it. Then if it's a Flower Cardian monster, look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, then place them all on the top or bottom of the deck in any order. Otherwise, send that card that you just drew to the graveyard. Now, this is also another tuner monster, so it can use to do the same kind of thing with the level 2 set of monsters that you would control as well. So that's really awesome for like trying to mess with your opponent a little bit, try to really hinder what they're doing, because maybe they have a card that won't help them at all, and you put that on the top and you send the rest to the bottom that would help them, and they basically lose a turn there. And then we got 3 Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain. Now you can reveal this card in your hand, draw a card. If you do show it, then special summon this card if the drawn card is a Flower Cardian monster. And this is a very low level monster, so if you have this card out on the field, you'll probably be able to bring out every other Flower Cardian monster by special summon because you control a monster that's lower than their level. Now, but also, during either player's damage step, when a Flower Cardian monster battles an opponent's monster, you can discard this card, the battling monster gains 1000 attack. So that's really awesome. That gets you over some of those humps. But even though your monsters are really high attack, like your synchro monsters are really high attack to begin with, and most times you're not really using the Cardians themselves, the main monster, just effect monsters themselves as battling material. Mostly you usually try to go for a synchro summon. And then lastly, we have 3 Flower Cardian Pine. Now, if this is normal summon, you just draw a card, show it just like you always did before, and then send it to the grave unless it's a Flower Cardian monster. So that just gives you a little bit extra there. Now, if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or if this card is in possession destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can draw a card. So there's just a little bit more draw power. It's also level 1, so it just synergizes a little bit with getting other cards out, because sometimes you do want to normal summon it, and then you can special summon the rest of your cards. And then to finalize the main monster deck, we have 1 Maxi. Maxi, I personally think should be run in every deck. I actually, I had a couple extra Maxis running around because the ban list obviously took them down to 1 in each deck. So I just gave my buddy a Maxi here, and we don't regret it. Moving on to our spell lineup, we have 3 Flower Stacking. So this is basically the card where you can move 3 Flower Cardian monsters with different names from your deck and place them on the top of the deck in any order. So you're not drawing them, you're not really changing the game state at that current moment. But this synergizes with the rest of the cards where you can, if you reveal the top card of your deck to be a Flower Cardian, you can do a positive effect. But it also has a secondary effect. During the main phase, except the turn that this was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard, then target 1 Flower Cardian monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So that's like a monster reincarnation right there with no drawback, because it's already going to be in your graveyard. You're not going to really have a way to get a spell card back, but then it also gives you the opportunity to get a Flower Cardian back, replenishing your hand, replenishing your resources. It's super good that way. Now with Flower Stacking, we also have Super Koi Koi, which you only have the 2. I think it's a good choice. This activates the top 3 cards of your deck and special summon as many Flower Cardian monsters among them as possible, ignoring their summon conditions, but their levels become 2 and they have their effects negated. So this is when you want to go for the synchro play. So if you play Flower Gathering and then you play Super Koi Koi, you have 3 monsters brought out instantly because you know what they want. But if you don't have Flower Stacking, and if you just try to gamble Super Koi Koi, you actually can take some pretty immense damage. So banish the remaining cards face down if you do. So if they are spell or traps that you draw, and lose 1,000 life points for each. So that's kind of a gamble there, but I'd say 9 times out of 10 you're mostly going to be using Super Koi Koi with Flower Stacking or another ability of the monsters in the deck to kind of set things up on the top of your deck that you want. Okay, and then just like Flower Stacking, you have the secondary, well, I guess this would be the second main ability. You can banish this card from your graveyard, tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 Flower Cardian monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning condition. So maybe if you have a card that you can't really bring out, you can banish this card from the graveyard and tribute a card that maybe you don't really need, and bring out a new Flower Cardian monster to start off a new chain of combos. We also have 3 Recardinations. So this is basically just the Monster Reborn set of the cards. So you can just target 1 Flower Cardian monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, then you can special summon 1 Flower Cardian monster from your hand, ignoring a summoning condition. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a Flower Cardian monster effect, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add 1 excavated spell and trap card to your hand. Place the remaining cards on the top of your deck. So this is kind of a really cool card. If you use one of the main monster effects where it just where you reveal the top card of your deck and it maybe isn't a Flower Cardian monster and it gets sent to the graveyard, you can then use a secondary effect that it has. You can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add 1 of those excavated spell and trap cards to your hand. So you can probably get your Flower Stacking, Super Koi Koi, anything like that, back to your hand, and then you would just you'd resource your graveyard with some Flower Cardian monsters, because there is some ways of getting them back. And lastly, for the Flower Cardian support spells, we have Flower Gathering. So this is one of the bigger ones here. You can special summon 4 Flower Cardian monsters with 100 attack and different names from your deck in attack position, but their effects are negated. Also, they cannot be attributed for a tribute summon. But you're not going to be using them for a tribute summon. You're going to be using them for a synchro summon. Now, there's some drawbacks to this where you can only activate one Flower Gathering per turn. You cannot normal or special summon other monsters during this turn except Flower Cardians. But of course, you probably will be bringing out either your Lightflare, your Light Shower, something like that, because you have 4 or 5 monsters on the field at this point. So you won't be able to go into your general Xyz or synchros, but you'll be able to go into your powerful Flower Cardian synchros. And of course, I'll be running that 3. That's a big first turn opener there for sure. Also, we run 1 Allure of Darkness. Now, people either run 1 or they run 3. And my buddy runs 1, and I definitely stand by that. I don't think there's really room in the deck for any more than 1. And I think that it still is needed, because sometimes you just need to get, you just need to move into your combo pieces, and more than likely you have a dark monster that you can banish, and you won't lose everything. So just kind of, if you're stuck and you have that, Allure of Darkness can be a little bit of a help to kind of push along those combo plays. And then we also got 1 Reinforcement of the Army, as these are all warrior type monsters, and it kind of gets you searching for your low levels that you may need to start your plays with the higher levels. And then just 1 Solemn Warning. He actually has a Solemn Warning, which is why he plays that. No Solemn Strikes. And Solemn Warning is really great because it can stop some spell or trap cards that would include special summoning a monster. So that's pretty good right there. Moving on to the extra deck, he's got 2 Flower Cardian Lightflares. Now this behemoth is just insane. With 5,000 attack and the ability to negate and the spell a trap card once per turn, I have such a hard time getting over this. It's awesome, and it's such a fun match to play against. Now it also has a secondary effect. If a Flower Cardian monster you control battles an opponent's monster, that opponent's monster has its effects negated during the battle phase only. So then again, cards that would normally shut down this powerful monster that are effects now from monsters also are negated in a whole main portion of your turn. Now, if this face-up synchro monster is destroyed by battle or leaves the field for any reason because of an opponent's card effect while the owner controls it, you can special summon 1 Flower Cardian synchro monster from your extra deck except Flower Cardian Lightflare. So you can't revive like it's another one of these, but you're probably going to go for the second synchro type monster we have here, Flower Cardian Light Shower. Now this is a pretty beastly card as well, with some pretty awesome combos. Now that's why it's ran at 3 here. Your opponent cannot target Flower Cardian monsters you control with card effects. Also, those monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects as well. So during your opponent's draw phase, if they draw a card for their normal draw, inflict 1500 points of damage to your life point. Now once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you have to choose one of these effects. So now you can either skip the draw phase of your next turn, or this card has its other effects negated until your opponent's next standby phase. So you can either choose to skip your own draw phase, which isn't detrimental for you, especially if you have these cards on the field, and maybe you you can kill your opponent with another 1500 damage. You can keep this card on the field, not draw, maybe you're happy with the game state, and then next turn your opponent will take another 1500 damage if they don't have an answer for that. So obviously the house ran at 3, good choice there. We also have 1 Flower Cardian Boar to Fly. So this is just a Flower Cardian monster controls attacks defense position monster. It does piercing damage. So that's really powerful, especially with 5,000 attack. That's just basically game over after 2 attacks. But also, once per turn, you can banish 1 Flower Cardian monster from your graveyard, which you have a few of in there probably, since you synchro summoned. Until the end phase of your opponent's next turn, your opponent cannot activate effects of cards in their graveyard. Also, they cannot special summon monsters from the graveyard. So this really does shut down a lot of things. Now, I've seen some people run this at 2, some people run it at 1. We only got 1 in here. I maybe would bump this up to 2 because it's easy to bring out, but instead we do run 1 Flower Cardian Moonflower. So once per turn, you can activate this effect, skip the draw phase of your next turn, also draw 1 card. There you go. Now, if you do show it, then you can special summon it if it's a Flower Cardian monster, ignoring summon conditions. And if you do, it can attack directly this turn, so kind of bypass some stuff, maybe with 2,000 or 1,000 damage. But this is also really cool. This is a tuner monster as well. So Axel Synchro much, Delta XL Synchro much. But when this card is used as synchro material, you can treat it in all other synchro materials that have a level as level 2. So just like the synergy of the other Flower Cardian monsters in the deck. So nice little combo plays there. And that ends our Flower Cardian lineup for the extra deck. And we move into just our general synchros. We got BLs, the Diabolical Dragons. Really powerful if you can bring this card out. Obviously, all monsters in this deck can easily make a level 8 and are all dark monsters. That meets that summoning condition just fine. Another Warrior, Goyo Guardian. Now this card is no longer banned. You can revive one of your opponent's monsters if you bring it out. Fairly good like that. I would never see him really using these. I think he'd stick mostly to his Flower Cardian monsters, but just 3 extra synchros doesn't hurt anybody. And then also Void Ogre Dragon. This takes Dark Tuner, obviously, which we have a buttload of. And then this has just spell and trap card negations if you don't have any cards in your hand, which you may not with this deck because you just keep running through resources and every turn you just replenish your hand and then you spend your hand. Moving on to the XZs, we have one level 8 one right here. We got Lancelot, the Dark Knight of the Underworld. And this is just for your opponent, for being able to attack your opponent directly, so that's pretty awesome. We also have a number 11 Big Eye. So this is just 2 level 7s, which sometimes you can bring out, sometimes you can't. It's just in there just because. You can detach one extra monster and take control of one of your opponent's monsters. Always super powerful. And then we have an interesting lineup that he actually showed me. I never really saw this before. We got number 35, Ravenous Tarantula. So this takes 2 level 10 monsters, which you can bring out. And all monsters you control gain attacking them equal to the difference between your opponent's life points. Really powerful. Good plays like that. But you can actually upgrade it to number 84, Pain Gainer. And then you can upgrade that to number 77, the 7 Sins. Which is pretty insane. And they keep gaining the Xyz materials and everything like that. So if you can get to this card, you got a pretty powerful monster. One can negate special summons, so right there, and banish all the special summon monsters on the field. So number 77, the Sins, it's really a cool combo set he has going on here. And this deck is so powerful and consistent, it blows my mind that not more people are using it. Thus ending the extra deck portion, we're moving on to the side deck portion, where I took some creative liberties just to shove in some cards that I think would be really good for the meta right now. He's still working on his side deck. He's got maybe 5 or 10 cards in there right now. Obviously, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is a new card that just came out that's kind of super expensive. It's also super good, as it can negate basically everything that makes meta decks good. So, obviously, we would run 2 or 3 of those. We also got some Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit kicking around. A DD Crow, because sometimes you really do need to banish something. 2 more Allure of Darkness, and that's just draw power for the deck if needed. Maybe you're up against a tough matchup. We have 1 more Super Quickly, just in case. I don't really think you need more than 2, but just in case. And then Mask of Restrict, super meta. You can negate the True Kings pretty easily because neither player can tribute cards, and the True Kings literally say you can tribute a continuous spell or a continuous trap or a monster, and this also stops Monarchs, which hurts this deck a lot. If anyone still plays Monarch, I know I do, but not frequently. But Mask of Restrict, super meta. You should be running these now. Definitely run these. They can really shut down those big decks that are going around right now, because a lot of decks are tribute summoning, and if neither player can tribute, like this deck doesn't really need to tribute. Definitely run that at 3, and we also have 3 Solemn Strikes, just because Solemn Strikes negate everything, and it's just great. So that's my buddy's Flower Cardian deck, with a little bit of assistance from me, but it was all him. He came to me, he's like, hey, I built my deck, and I'm like, this is awesome. This is a really awesome deck, because I never really looked at like deck profiles for Flower Cardians before. I just kind of knew what they were about a little bit. But yeah, he blew my mind with this. This deck is super powerful, super great, super easy to build. Just to get the main deck and some of the extra deck is super cheap. So I recommend this to anyone who really wants a great deck to play. Budget. Fun. It's not stupid. Doesn't make your opponent hate the game. It can lock them out sometimes, but it doesn't make you not be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh. So I highly recommend. I hope you enjoyed. I really hope this was informative for you, and I hope to catch you in the next one. As always, peace.